So this is a project that I've wanted to tackle for a while now, and that's making the paper flower from the logo of the Allegiance musical, George Takei's Allegiance musical. This was actually pretty hard for me to figure out, but it's really simple to do, so I'm going to show it to you and you'll be able to do it with no problem. The reason it was so difficult to figure it out was because I looked at the playbill, right? And I can tell that the paper flower they make is a sakura flower. But when I tried to look up origami sakura flower directions, none of the directions I found were the flower that is shown in the logo. So I scoured the internet and finally I found something that looked similar. And they said the directions to it were in like some Japanese magazine, which I couldn't find anywhere. The directions, I found one place where they actually had it, but it required a subscription to see it, and I didn't want to do that. It had some portions of the instructions that I could read before I need the trial, but one of the hardest parts, the part where the petal goes in at the top, that I could not find instructions to anywhere. There was a place where they said they might have photo instructions, but all the image links were broken, and I just had trouble with it. I did find one person, luckily, who had a photo of their finished product, both front and back, so it didn't have the instructions of how to fold, but at least I was able to look at the back. So I spent a while just sort of trial and error trying to figure it out, and eventually I figured out how to fold it. So after I finally figured out how to fold it, then I had to figure out how to make this pattern work. I made this pattern, I designed it. It took me a while to get it right, to make the stripes all line up. You see my first attempt, the stripes were completely not going the right direction, not even lining up with each other, etc. So it took me a few tries, but finally I managed it. And then of course I realized that flower that I made first is based off the old Indiegogo sort of logo from when they were first raising funds for it. So I actually remade the pattern to look with slightly different colors and different size stars to look a little more like the one that's actually in the Broadway version of the logo. So like I said, it took me a while to figure it out, but it's pretty simple to do, so I'm going to show you and then you won't have any problems. So this flower is actually made up of 5 different pieces of paper that you then attach together. And through trial and error, I discovered that while origami, usually you use square paper, I discovered that it actually looks better when I use a paper that is 1/4 bigger on the wide side, 1/4 wider than it is high. So I figured that out through some trial and error as well. So I went ahead and made these templates with the proper pattern and the proper size. In this case, I made it 2¼ inches by 2 inches. You can obviously use different sizes as long as you still keep the same proportion, but I felt like this gives me a really nice size that I like. Like my first attempts were really big. This one was made using squares. You can see that the petals are very long, but you know, this is quite large, so I like the smaller one. So here we have our flower. This is going to be how these line up to be these petals. This could be the top petal, these are the bottom 2. So I'm going to show you how to fold the petals. Like I said, it's pretty simple. So we will start with this petal here. What you do is you fold it in half. Left to right. Then you take your top flap of what you just folded and you fold that back in half so that it meets the fold you just made. right? Flip it over. Do the same thing from this end, fold it into the other side where that fold is. And then you open that one up again. So now you should have this little sticker. This has a crease here, and below it, this part is still folded underneath. So what you do is you take this corner, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold this down. So this corner here is, the top left corner is where there's a crease. And you fold this down so that your top right corner meets the center line. The little fold you make makes a line in this, down the center. All right. So then open that up, do the same thing going the other way. So you're taking your top left corner, you're folding it down with a crease at the top right corner until the top left corner reaches the center. And then you open that up again. So now you should have this little X at the top here. Now what you're gonna do, fold the top right down again, and you have this little flap made from how the underside is folded under. You have this little flap here. So you kind of pull that up, you open this up, and what you sort of end up with is almost a little cat-eared kind of deal. Now, this is how you're making the part of the top of the petal that goes in. So now you take this corner again, you're gonna open this little envelope here up. You're gonna fold this corner inside, so it's almost like this end is sort of going along this imaginary line here. Not completely exactly, but you sort of tuck that in, and then you flatten it out, and this edge will fold over to meet there. Now this is where I said you don't necessarily need it to exactly follow this line, because what's more important is that this little bit here should line up with this. So right now mine is hanging over a little bit. So I'm actually going to adjust this until I get my fold to sort of line up more nicely at the top. Because on the other side, the side we're looking at, we want this to be a nice smooth line. So we do the exact same thing on this corner. You sort of open this little pocket up, tuck this corner in, and flatten it out so that it's nice and lined up. Okay. So from here, we'll flip this over. You've got your top of your petal down here. And this part we're going to have come in. So we're going to make ourselves another guideline. See this, how it's sort of divided in half here, a left half and a right half? So the right half, we want a little guideline of the center. So I'm just going to fold this over so it's sort of flat, so it meets the center line there. Just a bit, just enough to sort of make a crease. Then open it up again, and now I have a nice little guideline of where the center is. So this end here, much like before, we're folding it so that the corner, our bottom left corner now, is going to meet that center line we just made, the center of the right half. And where this folds is from this crease, the one going down the middle, so the bottom right corner of the left side of your thing, and then just somewhere in the, so that the left corner goes over and it meets the middle of this. So you just fold that up. Okay, so you have this corner is still square. This corner, you've got this fold up here. Now, obviously we want our petal not to have this white stuff, this back here. So what we actually do is take this and sort of open it up again. You can see that it's like a pocket here, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold this whole thing inside out almost. Flip the edges. So this crease that's a mountain fold here is gonna be turning into a valley fold. These valley fold crease here is gonna turn into a mountain fold. Basically, you just flip it over along the creases that you just made, right? This goes in together, flatten it out, and here you have the top of your petals, the left side diagonal going in. You've got a little flap poking out here. Don't worry about that. So normally in origami, you do everything all the time on all sides. Actually, in this case, we're gonna leave this like this with the right bottom square still. So we're gonna put that down for now. That petal's done for now. And we do the same thing on all of our other petals.
Gaman is a word to be spoken and heard in this place where each face tells a story of pain. Gaman, I will say, I will get through each day. I will bear any nightmare with a simple refrain. Gaman, Gaman, sturdy and sure, keep.
All right, so now you've got all 5 of your petals all set up, and now it's time to put them together. So here is how this goes, and I'm just going to kind of turn these so we get a better idea here. You see, they're gonna go together like this. So basically what you're gonna do is you're going to slide this petal right in to the one next to it. This little corner you have here is gonna go in along this line over to this little flap you have here, so it's going to fit kind of right in there. If you can see, just like that. Okay, so you just slide that in, and in order to make it stick, you take this little flap, kind of fold it over, so you're sort of folding them together and they get stuck, right? Now you do the next thing with the next petal. Slide it in to this little gap you have between the back and the flap, the little envelope you made, right? Slide it right in there. It's gonna be coming out right near this flap here. You see this? So it's in there. Fold the flap over and stick together. Next is this next petal here. Go this in. See how nicely the stripes line up. I'm very proud of that. I worked very hard on that. Fold over Next petal goes in. Once again, the stripes should line up. If they're off a little bit, you can sort of finagle them. Fold the flap over. And the last flaps go together. And this is going to kind of come inwards so that it's not just flat, it's sort of going up like this inside. Put the last one together, fold the flap over, I had this fall apart a little on me just now. I'm just going to put that back. So here you have the flower all set up. Now something else I like to do is just to curl these ends of the petals out a little bit. So you can use a pencil, you can use whatever. I actually can just using my finger, very convenient little curved surface for it. Sort of fold the petals back over a little bit, just sort of round them out a little, not a complete fold with a crease. And just so you end up with this nice sakura petal blossom, just like the Allegiance logo. Now, Kay wore this flower in her hair in the show. And I mean, it didn't look exactly like this, obviously. This is the one from the logo. And in the show, she was using the questionnaire of whether the Japanese American citizens are loyal to America or not. So if you're doing this for cosplay purposes or something, you probably want to get one of those. But this is nice just as a little thing. This is designed to stay together without any glue or anything. You see, I didn't glue this at all. It's just the paper folds holding it together. But if I'm going to be turning it into a hairpin, then I'm thinking maybe I would want to glue it in place a little just so it stands out clear. The template I have has straight arrows, and also on the bottom is half that's kind of distorted a little bit. It's got some sort of old age thing to it. So this is the old version, but you can see what the effect is like when it has that distortion stuff on it. So like I said, you might want to sort of glue it together, and then I'm thinking, in order to turn it into a hairpin, what I've done is I just took this little twist tie. So I sort of made this little contraption where I have a circle here in the center and two raised circles going up. So I'm gonna attach it so that this circle goes in the center here, just right in the center of our flower with, I don't know, hot glue maybe. I haven't figured that out yet. And then I'd be able to, whenever I want to, take a bobby pin and just slide the bobby pin through the top loops. So now I have this, and I can just put it in my hair. And this end is going to be attached to the flower, like so. And then there you go. You got a paper blossom to wear in your hair, just like Kay does in the musical. And there you have the paper blossoms from George Takei's Allegiance. I've gone ahead and made them into hairpins, as you can see. I'm going to be putting the templates that I made for both the older version and the Broadway version of the pattern into the description below. You can obviously use any color paper you want to just make a origami sakura with these instructions. Just remember what I said about how I think it looks better when the ratio is, instead of a square, if the width is a quarter longer than the height is. All right, happy folding.